Have you ever found yourself waking up from a nightmare, only to realize that you were just in another one? This is the story of our protagonist. In the world there is nothing, only monsters roaming. Our hero Liu Shang stand alone confronting the giant centipede monster. He unleashed his ultimate move to strike the monster, and then everything went dark. There is only a sound calling out his name multiple times. Liu Shang, Liu Shang. It is his teacher calling out to him while he is sleeping in the class. The teacher said that he had slept for the entire day and told him to look at himself because there were only 200 days left till the final exam. And all he's good at is sleeping. The teacher said if he doesn't put any effort into studying, he won't even pass the construction worker level for hiring. Then the teacher sighed and dismissed the class. Liu Qiming, one of Liu Shang's classmates, asked him if he dreamt about the same nightmare again. Liu Shang told Liu Qiming it was that depressing and dilapidated field again. There was no one around, except for monsters. Liu Shang said it was this nightmare that caused his mental state to drop severely, and his vitality dropped by 0.02 from what it originally had. He will have to take a ton of medicine and train himself to death to gain it back. Liu Qiming told him not to think too much about it, and just let the geniuses fill the role of heroes to save this world instead of them. Liu Qiming invited Liu Shang to play some games with him, but Liu Shang passed because he wasn't in the mood. He just needed to go home, but Liu Qiming insisted on asking Liu Shang to go together. Liu Shang tirelessly told Liu Qiming that he was not going because he needed to sleep at home. Another classmate called Liu Qiming to hurry, then Liu Qiming said goodbye to Liu Shang and went on his way. Liu Shang, on his way home, keeps mumbling about how he never thought that after reincarnating into this new world he still had to worry about his final exams. Then he looked at the news on the building's billboard. A girl carrying an overloaded cargo told him to move aside. He surprisingly thought that she's so strong and asked himself, when will he be able to be like that? At his home, his father is lying down, and his mother is applying thermal plaster on his father's back. His father asks her to be gentle. A moment later Liu Shang is back, and his father asks him, if he's hungry, he can have an apple first, and his mother said that she's going to make dinner just waiting for his little sister. Liu Shang asked his dad why their family didn't buy a blood-circulating apparatus. His classmate has one at home, and it was surprisingly good. His father replied, his father's condition isn't an injury, and it's just slightly problematic due to old age. And he remembered that he had a present for Liu Shang. The benevolent clinic's newest health recovery powder. His mother was shocked that it is the $20,000 health recovery powder currently advertised on television, and it's good for the school year young man like him. Then his mother praises his father that he's a capable man, teasing him by slapping his hurting back. His mother suggests a celebration, cause her superiors allowed her to take back the leftover pork head meat from work today. Seeing his parents so cheerful, knowing that they are trying to cheer him up about his vitality. Speaking of which, his father asks about his vitality. Has he managed to break through to 0.85 yet? His younger sister's vitality has almost gotten to 0.9, so he is the one that they're most worried about, and his father saw on the news today that they're planning to raise the cutoff point for the high school level exam by 0.01. Liu Shang just replied to his father that he knew and excused himself to go to his room. Inside his room, he at once took off his tracksuit and began to exercise the 24 body reconstruction techniques created based on ancient yoga, martial arts, and judo techniques by the Martial Alliance's masters. 300 years ago, humongous cracks appeared in the sky and earth, and terrifying monsters emerged from them and terrorized civilization. Advanced weapons did nothing against them, but humanity was suddenly able to tap into a new source of power. A genetic lock within humanity had come undone instead. Every individual's strength was raised exponentially. That marked the new era of martial arts prosperity. However, despite all that, humans were at a disadvantage, and every day there were cities falling into monsters. Humanity is still being pushed towards the brink of defeat. One of the officials gave a speech that they all have been born into a restless world, and they must take responsibility for this era. Every one of them practices martial arts for the sake of humanity, and they are the legacies of martial arts. After finishing 3 sets of the body reconstruction technique, Liu Shang's vitality has not even changed due to the nightmares that he encountered while his younger sister was about to reach 0.9. Because of this, his parents have been through a lot just to get the medicine for him, and the heaven have given him a second chance to be reincarnated into this world of martial arts. Lu Sheng said since 3 times in a row isn't work, he is determined to go through harder. But before he could start practicing, he lost consciousness, opened his eyes, and found himself in the desolate field of his nightmares. He pinches his cheek to wake himself up, but nothing happens. Suddenly a zombie appears and attacks him from behind and pushes him off balance. It tries to bite him, but he dodges the bite and kicks it in the chest to send it away while the zombie was falling. He took a rock and smashed the zombie's head to its real death. He finally killed the zombie. Surprisingly, the aura came out from the zombie and entered his body. These are the zombie memories of when he was still living. He was with his friend at the beach having a chit-chat. The memory when he was assigned the base number 1359's defense team. The memory of training with his commander, and the last memory of him facing his demise. Lu Sheng asks why he has gotten his memories after killing him. While he was so confused about what happened, another zombie attacked him from behind. He sensed it then. With just one move, he decapitated the zombie. A blue aura appeared from his body, and his eyes were sparkling. Lu Sheng isn't aware of the situation, not just memories of the zombies he killed entering his body, but also their strength. He realizes that strength is slowly entering his body. He can't believe that he gained a lifetime's worth of experience just killing zombies, and he sighs and says it's only just a dream, even though he thinks it's a dream. But everything feels so real. The second zombie's memory penetrates his memory, showing the base 1359. So, he decides to find the base to seek the truth about this dream there. A moment later, he absorbs another zombie, but only memory this time. Turns out that non-combat zombie has nothing for him to get stronger but memory, and it's useful for him. Suddenly, the dream world started to shake, and he woke up to his reality. His little sister Lu Qinghe is calling him at his door. She told him it's dinner time, and scolded him not to be lazy. When he opened the door, she noticed that Lu Sheng was sweating. Then she said don't tell that he's working out when he was sleeping the entire of time. Lu Sheng excused his little sister that he just took a little nap. His sister noticed his muscle and turned around while reminding him don't make their parents wait. Lu Qinghe wonders when her brother develops those muscles and thinks he must put a lot of effort into working out. Lu Sheng sighed and remembered when they both were kids his sister was like glue to him, but after attending school and received her assessment result, her attitude toward him changed. Her vitality is 1.0 and her combat ability is over 100. She might soon receive an offer to a prestigious martial art university, and as for him, he just feels like he's a worthless brother. When he looked in the mirror, he was surprised to see his muscular body. He felt full of energy, and not only just that, he also remembers the memories that he got from those zombies and various combat techniques he inherited. He can't believe that he can bring what he obtains from a dream to reality. At the family's dining table, he ate bowl after bowl thinking that his mom's cooking skill has improved, but to everyone's surprise, he empties all the food on the table and asks for another bowl. Realize everyone's reaction, he said never minded, he's full. But his father wouldn't let it go, so he snatched the bowl from Lu Sheng, gave it to his mother, and ordered her to cook a few more dishes. His father was so happy to see him have so much appetite and said it was a good thing. His sisters belittle him because his vitality is never going to pass 0.8, but her father told to stop belittling him. While his father and sister were arguing, he plans to get his vitality check at the dojo. Later, he arrived in front of the Hongchuan dojo. The head of the dojo is an Ai Hongchuan, and he is rank 4 martial artist. The World Martial Alliance standard and ranking system excellent pupil rank 1 martial artist like Ku Chu Chi has vitality 1.5 and combat power of 150. Professional instructors rank 2 martial artists like Lin Lan has vitality of 15 and combat power of 1,500. Consultants like rank 3 martial artist Shi Jin has vitality of 100 and combat power of 10,000. Dojo master like rank 4 martial artist and Ai Hongchuan has vitality surpasses 200 and combat power over 100,000, and the list go on and on until rank 9. The martial art who has highest rank was considered the superhuman. Lu Sheng looks at the poster thinking only the children from a wealthy family can afford to attend the dojo. If his sister attends this dojo, his family will support her, but as for him, he isn't interested. Beside, he can absorb the experience, form the zombies in his dream. The receptionist greeted him and asked if he would like to enroll in the class, but he just said no, he came only for an assessment of his vitality. The receptionist thinks that he doesn't have a personal trainer with him and looks like he's not from rich family either. Then she just guided him to the assessment equipment and asked him if he need her assistance. But Lu Sheng replied it's fine, he knows how it works. In the assessment room, he'll assess his vitality first. He put his hand on a glowing ball and vitality window show that his vitality is 0.963. Martial artist rank is apprentice rank. He was so happy that his vitality increased by 0.2 in just an hour of sleep, and he almost catches up to his little sister at this rate. Next, he'll assess his combat power. He placed his palm in front of the equipment and concentrated, then blue aura appear from his body. He closed his eyes and used the experience and combat techniques from the two zombies that curved in his mind. He stepped forward and hit the test equipment. He wait for the result, then the window show that his combat power is 113. He's surprised on his improvement. He thinks if he slept for 9 or 10 hours, he will be reborn as a martial artist. Back at his room, he was struggled to fall asleep when he wanted to. He turns on the light and decides to work out to stabilize vitality. He started to practice, but realized that not his usual practice movement. This is the body training techniques from the zombie memory. The memory keep flashing as he's practicing. He repeated the movement and realized every time he go through the motions, he can feels the power surging through him. And he not just using the body training technique, there is a breathing technique as well. As he manifests an electric ball, his stomach rumble, and he's so hungry that his face became zombie-like. Turn out that he forced his body to grow, and the energy consumption can't keep up. Regular food isn't enough to provide him with the nutrients he need anymore, so the option is left is strengthen pills. But with his family financial, he can't afford it. And if things continue like this, his growth rate will slow down, so he better start earning in his school. There is an award for student performance, and he planned to get his hand on it. He needs to show his talents and abilities. At the sports gym locker room, Lim Chiu-ming told him that it's been a long time since they've had a practical combat lesson. Lim Chiu-ming noticed Lu Sheng's body and asked him, when did he get those muscles? Lu Sheng replied that he has been working out and his hair has grown longer. It's time to take a haircut. Lim Chiu-ming smuggled said that Lu Sheng was trying to get girls' attention, but Lu Sheng replied he isn't the same Lim Chiu-ming, and the exam are coming, suggest him to get ready, and they both go to gym. At the gym, practical combat instructor Zhong Zhenghua said today they will be reviewing the basics of combat techniques that they have talked about in the class. Lim Chiu told Lu Sheng that Mr. Zhong is a rank 2 martial artist, and his scars from the actual battle with beasts, judging by those scars on his right arm. While Mr. Zhong shows his techniques, Lu Sheng notices that his techniques are too simple and unrefined, and the things he absorbed from his dreams are much better. After showing basic combat, Mr. Zhong called one of the students named Yang Yifei to prove to the class. As he walked to perform, the girls in the class were astonished by his showing off, and they praised him for being the strongest in the class. Lim Chiu-ming was disappointed and said that guy again. He's the one hogging the spotlight every time cause he handsome, rich, and he got himself the best pills. His vitality is getting close to 1.2 as well. Lim Chiu-ming assumed that the instructors always play favorite, and people like him are useless folks. In Lu Sheng's mind, he'd agreed with his buddy, but now that he knows he gets stronger, he'll grab them all with his own hands. After proving, Mr. Zhong told Yang Yifei that he had a few issues with his balance, and he will correct his movement next time. Next, he will have other students to practice with him. Yang Yifei thanks him, but in his mind, he isn't accepting Mr. Zhong's advice and belittle Mr. Zhong for having a lower rank martial art compared to his family. Mr. Zhong asked if there is anyone wanted to spar with Yang Yifei. The students keep silence and no one's bothered to spar with him. Mr. Zhong realized every time this happens, the students start shriveling away. The school only teaching them the basics, but once they join the military, only a handful of them will be walking the path. He knew that the students said he play favorite while thinking he noticed the stare of Lu Sheng. Those staring eyes belong to some who has undergone truly arduous training. He pointed in Lu Sheng and ordered him to spar with Yang Yifei. Lim Chiu-ming warned Lu Sheng not take it and reminds him that they will have an exam soon. But Lu Sheng said don't worry, he has been training. Mr. Zhong told them that have 10 minutes for this sparring match. Remember the lesson and safety first. As they're facing each other, the instructor gave the signal to start. Mr. Zhong noticed that Lu Sheng showed no sign of fear and kept his cool. He asked what Lu Sheng's vitality is from the last test. Lu Sheng replied shortly 0.802. He thought that Lu Sheng's vitality was too low, and he reminded Lu Sheng to pay attention to his strength, then he was ready to fight. Before the fight, Yang Yifei asked Lu Sheng to get ready and mocked him when the fall. Don't try to use his hands to stop the fall. It might put pressure on his bones. Instead, he should protect his vital, especially the head. Lu Sheng thanks Yang Yifei for reminding him and told Yang Yifei he can come at him anytime now. Yang Yifei at once flashing his fist in front of Lu Sheng's face. The students were stunned seeing what they saw. Yang Yifei getting cocky cause he thought a pushovers like Lu Sheng deserve an embarrassing. But he was surprised that his hand hitting nothing. Lu Sheng turn. He's charging himself with the blue aura like a Super Saiyan Blue and prepare to unleash Goku's Dragon Fist. He punches Yang Yifei's arrogant face, cause him to bound with Super Saiyan Blue energy. Everyone was shocked and Yang Yifei's face is still smoking from the impact. Mr. Zhong quick went to check if Yang Yifei is okay. Everyone's looking at Lu Sheng. They all can't believe that he took only one punch to send Yang Yifei away. Even Lu Sheng himself was surprised at his own combat ability. As the instructor is holding Yang Yifei, everyone cannot seem to believe their eyes that Lu Sheng defeated Yang Yifei with a single punch. Mr. Zhong told them to stop spacing out and go to call a teacher from the infirmary's office. After the nurses put Yang Yifei on a stretcher, Lu Sheng went to sorry Mr. Zhong that he did not mean to do that due to the lack of his strength control. Mr. Zhong looks at him in the eyes and told him not to worry about it. Beside Yang Yifei's injuries aren't that severe, then Mr. Zhong asked him to come to his office because he has something to discuss with Lu Sheng. Then Lu Sheng told Lim Qiuming to inform the homeroom teacher that need to go to Mr. Zhong's office. Lim Qiuming is still frozen from shock of unbelievable that Yang Yifei with Vitality 1.22 is defeated by Lu Sheng with a single blow. He didn't recognize is that the Lu Sheng he has known for a long time. At Mr. Zhong's office they enter the room. Lu Sheng noticed the bonsai and said that he never knew Mr. Zhong has such hobby. Mr. Zhong laughed and said everyone has secrets of their own. Wouldn't he agree? With just Vitality only 0.8 and yet defeat another student with 1.22. Lu Sheng replied that the result was from last assessment. Mr. Zhong suspected that Lu Sheng might use the prohibited drug to increase his vitality, which was harmful to the body, but Lu Sheng rejected and swear that he has never used any illegal drugs. Mr. Zhong said fine and asked to assess his vitality and combat power again, so that Mr. Zhong can confirm it for sure. Lu Sheng placed his hand on the glowing ball, the blue aura appeared, and the window status showed up. His vitality is 1.532, and he's officially a martial artist rank 1. Mr. Zhong was freezing that an official martial artist at the age of 18. There's no genius like him in the whole school, even in the whole White Lake City. Lu Sheng prepares to assess his combat power with one little punch. The assessment dummy head flew away, destroyed the bonsai in an instant. Awkward, Lu Sheng kept saying sorry to Mr. Zhong that he didn't do it on purpose, and Mr. Zhong couldn't hold his tears for the loss of his bonsai. While crying, Mr. Zhong thought even the assessment model is modified for students, but it should withstand the attack of an official martial artist. He realized that Lu Sheng's strength had surpassed a rank 1 martial artist. Mr. Zhong asked Lu Sheng when the last time was. He assessed his vitality and combat power. Lu Sheng told him that was half a month ago. Mr. Zhong couldn't believe it and thought that Lu Sheng might be an heir to some noble clan, or perhaps he was receiving the tutelage of some grandmaster. But Lu Sheng told him that he's from an ordinary family and he's not disciple of any grandmaster either. As for the reason behind his improvement, he likes to keep it a secret. Mr. Zhong contemplated that Lu Sheng's improvement almost reached double in just 1 month, and in his school day, his results were an average. He became a rank 2 martial artist and entered the military after working so hard for many years. He understood the truth after stepping in the real battlefield, and that is impossible for humankind to defeat monsters. And only humans who have those monster strengths can defeat the monsters. Mr. Zhong sighed in relaxation and told Lu Sheng with his current result. He's more than qualified to be in higher standard school, and he will contact the dean's office about this. Lu Sheng thanked Mr. Zhong for his consideration, but he prefers his current class because he can advance much faster in his dream than in the class. Mr. Zhong told him the school will do its best to support him. If Lu Sheng has any difficulties about cultivation or requires the help of the school, feel free to tell him. Lu Sheng won't hold back that he has 2 requests. He wants to apply for a martial artist scholarship, and at the same time he hopes that the school will allow him to have a more flexible timetable. Mr. Zhong understood what Lu Sheng lacks financial aid and free time, or so he will request a scholarship that will give Lu Sheng a grant of $30,000 and discuss his timetable with the dean's office. The processing might take a couple of days. Mr. Zhong gave his black card to Lu Sheng with more than 100,000 in it and told Lu Sheng that he can pay him back when he has the money to prevent Lu Sheng wasting time. Lu Sheng appreciated Mr. Zhong, and Mr. Zhong told him to go back to his class and keep doing his best. As soon as the door is shut, Mr. Zhong can't hold his excitement about Lu Shang's extraordinary. He plans to keep it secret from other school because Lu Shang is the school trump card. He couldn't wait to tell the school higher up about it. Lu Shang. After so many years, they finally have someone not just for the unified examination, but also can go to this strange place. The scene changed to shop where a nourishing tonic called Orchid Heart was recommended by a staff to a mother and daughter. The staff explained that the tonic is effective when used to stabilize vitality after it reaches 0.8, and it was also specially designed for female martial artists. Currently on promotional with just $30,000, they bought it immediately as they left the shop. Lu Shang heard the mother told her daughter to train harder. He understood a poor family like his only able to buy the cheap one, and strong martial artist can earn more to boost their vitality with those expensive nourishing. The same goes for his sister. As for him, he blamed himself for didn't put enough effort to change his destiny and wasted his time aimlessly. As he saw a fellow duo student talking about playing a game that reminded him, he was once like them before when at time he felt like a fish trapped in the tank of the bottomless sea. However, all of this has changed now that he broke through the surface of the water and discovered the real world beyond. Once again, he had a chance to change his destiny and vowed to never make a wrong decision this time. Lu Shang was surprised that at this moment, the multitude of battle memories he had absorbed during this brief period had all been integrated into just one moment. He decided to advance yet another step on this path for his family and what he wants. He will keep becoming stronger to fight. Later in his dream, he's fighting with another zombie with combat ability. After exchange some blows, he defeat the zombie, and the zombie turned out to be a former martial artist when it was alive. It can still use combat techniques even after became a zombie. Lu Shang traveled to the base 1359. According to the zombie's memory, the base should be shrouded in a black mist and swarmed of an almost endless tide of monsters, though strangely he didn't even encounter a single monster but zombies. After decapitated 2 zombies in one blow, he finally reached the base, and it's looked like the wall-fortified town from Attack on Titan. He went there to get a closer look. He amazed to see such magnificent wall, but there is a breach in the wall which reminded him of the colossal titan from AOT. Then he climbs up the wall through the breach. He realized that the wall is at least 20 meters thick, yet it is really hard to imagine what kind of battle happened to take down a base of such scale. He noticed both the martial arts and the development of civilization of this world is far superior. If such a powerful civilization had fallen to the monsters, what will become for his future world? When he reached the edge of the wall, he saw a structure different from the others and concluded that should be the military base or command center. There is a humanoid figure. It looks like zombies sitting on the top floor of the building. The zombie looks at Lu Shang. An imminent force caught Lu Shang by surprise, knock him back on the floor. Lu Xin said, "Was that some kind of psychic power?" It was a terrifyingly intimidating force. He knew with his current abilities this isn't a place for him to go right now. So he decided to survey his surrounding areas because the zombies there seem pretty weak. He jumps on one of the zombies' face as a platform like a Super Mario game and passed through the other side. He reached a place that seemed like a normal apartment and looks like people must have been eating when the apocalypse dawned upon them. Strangely, there are no signs of damage to the door or windows either. His theory is ordinary people couldn't even have the right to be turned into zombies by that black mist. He saw a strange object, and when he touched it, there was light revealed in the place. It's a hologram of a pretty girl in strange, exciting clothes. "Oh boys." The girl said, "Welcome, user of Tianheng technology." At that moment, Lu Shang realized that she spoke the same language as him. He knew the fact that this isn't a high-tech auto-translator. Then the hologram girl introduced herself as a product of Tianheng Technologies. She's the built-in auxiliary artificial intelligence of the 16th generation optical mind, aka Ellie, and she responsible for controlling the network server management of the base 1359. Lu Shang asked her for the latest news. She replied, "Sure." She's happy to be of service. The status shown connecting to Skynet, which has failed because of John Connor destroyed the Skynet. Oop, sorry, that was a different story. Then Ellie pulls out a lot of info windows from the base 1359 civilian archives. The news showed year in 11,024 MC, June 21st. Main base number 2 has successful launched the 58th spacecraft in search of intelligent life form. Target destination is the Lyra Galaxy. In 11,024 MC, July 24th, base 105 has fallen. In 11,024 MC, September 24th, Lieutenant General Sun Changhe has successfully become a rank 10-star realm martial artist, becoming the 472nd rank 10-star realm powerhouse in the history of the World Martial Alliance. Currently, there are 23 ranked 10-star realm martial artists in the Alliance. In the year 11,024 MC, September 30th, bases 114, 838, and 1022 have fallen in succession. The 8th Division has been activated to search for survivors. In the year 11,024 MC, November 19th, the World Martial Alliance will be holding the 24th Grandmaster Conference at Main Base No. 1. They will be discussing the recent strategic policies that have been rolled out. Liu Shang came to know that the Dream World has a rank system the same as his world, and he can't even begin to imagine the heights of the Dream World's martial arts have reached. Another window has appeared showing the video of monsters coming through the crack in the sky. Terrified by what he saw of this dream world with both martial arts and technology reach unimaginable levels, and yet they weren't able to protect anything. In fact, they even decided to abandon their home planet and search for another suitable planet to call home. However, till the day human civilization fell, there wasn't any good news has been reported. Liu Shang was sure enough that his world too wouldn't be able to escape the inevitable destruction. Liu Shang showed sympathy for such a glorious civilization. It's such a shame. Then he asks Ellie to show him the history of this dream world. Ellie's doing her job and show him the world's history. Liu Shang's hoping to learn something from this dream world history event despite its destruction. He read the world history events and found out that the dream world is exactly his world, but it is the future of his world in 10,000 years later, and hopefully that both worlds are not the same one, or maybe a parallel universe. Then he asks Ellie to search for information specifically about himself. After the search is completed, he found his own information, which is shown that he only lived until 28 years old. On top of that, he's just an ordinary civilian. Then again, he asks Ellie to make another query with specific year 299, March, and a person named Liu Shengsu. Ellie replied access denied and asked him to provide a genetic blood sample to be registered as a user. He wonders how he does that. Then Ellie leans toward him, bites his finger and sucks his blood. Although Ellie is an AI, but Liu Shang's blushing awkwardly. After releasing his finger, Ellie lets him know that blood sample has been collected and start analysis. Liu Shang is still awkwardly thought, so that how they do in the future, huh? Oh boys. Ellie started to glitching. Liu Shang asked what's wrong with her. Suddenly fire appeared on her head, and she announced that project, Fireseed, initiated. Connection successfully and permission granted. You know, the regular sci-fi stuff that we usually see in the movie. Okay, back to our story. Liu Shang wonders, is the Fireseed project somehow related to the plan of abandoning the Earth in search of a new home planet? Another version of his information has shown up. His profile pictures look a bit older, and wonder if the future has changed? He checked the details. It's different from the one earlier. He's the best grade in school, graduated from Baiha High School, and placed 23rd in the whole of Baiha City, then enrolled in Baiha Martial Art University, joined the military 3 years later. He served in the Tiannan Military Division and died in the Southern War Zone at the age of 37 unmarried. He had the rank of lieutenant with no outstanding contributions. After reading the information, he's guessing maybe that after he became stronger, the future changed too. The trajectory of his life before 19 is the same. There's even a record of his sudden surge in strength before the college entrance exam too. And yet he is dissatisfied with these little achievements, but on the other hand, he thought in the vast human database over 10,000 years, there must have been way to many geniuses even to count. He can't even be considered a genius. However, his data here is not perfect. The records state that his vitality during the college entrance exam was 2.012, with combat power of 257, disregarding the dream world, at his current rate just by practicing refinement technique and breathing technique. Getting those results in 200 days later can be expected. However, if he takes the cultivation and gain he has made in the dream world into account, he will surpass those results for sure. His ego bursts that he should be in the national ranking, not just 23rd place in the city. His name becoming one that everyone knows, his future will surely be more than that if he can change the future by growing stronger. Then, the fate of humanity's impending destruction will be averted by him. He will turn things around and save everyone. He will be the spark that lights up a blaze through humanity. The scene was so intense that the flame lit up surrounded him. The next morning, in the dining room, Lu Xun's mother noticed her son was not wearing his uniform. She asked him if he hadn't had a class today. As he pulled the paper from his bun, Lu Xun informed her that his teacher had permitted him to study at home and that there was no need to go to school. His mother and sister were puzzled because they had never heard about such a thing. After eating, Lu Xun told his mom he would return to his room to train. As he leaves, Lu Qinghe notices the sudden change in her brother. He is not the fool she knew before. He becomes more mysterious. Upon entering his room, Lu Xun's phone rang. He answered it, and from the other line, Mr. Zhong informed him that his scholarship money had been released. He invites Lu Xun to come to school to collect the money. On the other hand, Lu Xun told him he had no time to waste and couldn't explain it to him right now. Then he ended the call and went back to his training. As he sat in a lotus position, Lu Xun persisted in becoming more vital, to change the future and show his talent to the people. When he reached the peak moments later, Lu Xun went to base 1359 and asked Ellie to pull up all the cultivation methods, reflections, and notes about martial arts that he could access with his permission. Ellie followed his command, and in a few seconds, multiple screens popped up. With 465,000 results, it was too many. So he asked Ellie to filter out the most valuable techniques that were suitable for rank 1 martial artists. Ellie quickly followed his order, and as a result, only the 3 best methods remained. The first technique is the Stellar Body Refining Technique. It was created by Wang He, a rank 2 powerhouse from the World Martial Alliance. The second is the Natural Breathing Technique created by Yang Yizhou, a rank 2 powerhouse from the World Martial Alliance. The last method is the Visualization Technique created by Duan Yifeng, a rank 2 powerhouse from the World Martial Alliance. All of them are incorporated into Project Fireseed. In Lu Xun's current world, the highest level of a martial artist is rank 9, but in this world, or 10,000 years later, they reached the 11th rank. Lu Xun was very thankful because of what people learned in this world, they managed to preserve it. He starts concentrating on practicing the Stellar Body Refining Technique. In this technique, his cells, blood, and inner body were transformed into a much more powerful form. His defense and strength became unimaginably strong. After successfully refining, the sweat covered his face and he's panting out of breath. He realized that the effect of this Stellar Body Refining Technique was 1,000 times, or even higher than the one he had practiced from the beginning. He didn't waste time and practiced the second technique called the Natural Breathing Technique. As he does this technique, flames surround him, and when he opens his eyes, he breathes like a dragon. Lu Xun felt countless flames burning within his body. Even his blood was boiling. Now there is only one remaining technique, the Visualization Technique. He sits in a lotus position and cultivates. Soon he went into his mind and saw his unconscious body floating. He approached the unconscious body and kicked it in the head because he didn't understand this technique. He sighed and gave up, deciding to figure out this technique slowly. Lu Xun wakes from his dream. He felt so exhausted and didn't know how it happened since he was just sleeping. As he looked at his arm, he felt like he was stinking and realized that the impurities became sweat and forcibly came out of his body due to the new technique he had learned. Lu Xun decided to take a bath, and as he held his nourishing tonic, he planned to get his scholarship money and make a precious elixir and tonic he discovered in his dream. The elixir and tonic that he intends to create can not only boost a person's abilities, but they can also change the pharmaceutical trajectory of the entire world. At Baihe High School, Mr. Zhong gave him the scholarship ATM card and reminded him to give him a heads up the next time he decided not to attend school. As he accepted the card, Lu Xun politely apologized to him. Mr. Zhong gave him permission to leave and advised him to at least come to school once a week. As he walked out the door, Zhang noticed the massive improvement in Lu Xun, knowing that just 2 days had passed. Now that he has money, he can create the medicinal prescription he learned in his dream. He will make the muscle and blood-strengthening decoction and marrow-nourishing pill because this best suits his current health status. Making medicine is delicate, so he decided to look for an alchemical lab to rent. A bearded man angrily told Lu Xun that he would not let him rent his chemical lab because he might see their exclusive secret prescription. Then he closed the door and told him to leave. Lu Xun just sighed and looked at the ingredients he bought. Then he realized that the card his teacher gave him had not only 30,000 but 80,000. He decided to buy the rudimentary equipment online. Still, when he ended up in an alley and noticed a medicinal hall, he never thought that a medicinal shop could exist in a remote place. Upon entering, he saw a blond man busy using his phone. Lucian approached and greeted him. The blond man, who was still focused on his phone, told him to get what he needed and bring it to him to make a payment. Lucian clarified that he didn't go there to buy. The blond man didn't pay attention to what he said and warned Lucian not to leave without paying because the shop had CCTV. As the salesman perverted looked into his phone, Lucian got fed up with him and slammed the blond man's hand onto the counter table. Now he got the attention of the perverted man. The blond man asked what he wanted. Lucian wanted to know if they had a chemical lab. As he smiled, he offered a business proposal to the pervert. Moments later, in front of the chemical lab, before entering, the blond man reminded Lucian of their agreement of $500 per hour and that he only had up to 3 hours to rent the alchemical lab. Before the blond man finished explaining, Lucian took out his card to pay immediately. Before using the lab, the blond man was thrilled and even wished Lucian good luck. Lucian put on a white coat and a pair of gloves to begin the first attempt at making the tonic. He prepared the ingredients and immersed a mutant, green-scaled lizard in a water tube to remove its scales and activate its medicinal properties. Then he carefully prepared the other ingredients. After a while, he successfully made the muscle and blood-strengthening decoction. He couldn't believe that he had successfully completed a tonic from 10,000 years in the future in just one attempt. He didn't waste time and drank the tonic to know its effect. After drinking it, he didn't feel anything and tasted nothing strange, so he thought he had failed. But suddenly, his body shook, and he fell to his knees in pain. After a few seconds, he was lying down, catching his breath. The efficacy of the tonic was incredibly remarkable. It filled up the vitality void created by advancing too quickly. In an instant, it seems that he gained even more health status than necessary. Despite its potent effect, it doesn't cause any harm to his body. Moreover, on top of massively strengthening his health status, it even has the effects of increasing the density of his skin, shrinking his pores, whitening and moisturizing his skin, and so on. This tonic is the crystallization of all the wisdom in the entire martial arts world accumulated over 10,000 years. His thoughts were disturbed when he heard a sudden knock on the door. When he opened the door, Lucian asked the time and reminded the blond man not to disturb him while inside. The panicked blond man told him there was no time to explain because his boss had already returned. He advised Lucian to leave quickly and go through the back door. Outside the medicinal shop, a beautiful woman with short brown hair, twirling the key with a healthy pair of Milk's factories, wearing seductive green clothes and a green pair of high heels, was about to enter the shop. At the alchemical lab, the owner of this Xingshan medicinal hall, her Susu, put down a box containing different tonics. Susu was very disappointed in the tonic she consumed. The quality was very poor and couldn't be considered a tonic. As she watched the news showing a martial artist with a muscular body, she realized that the pharmaceutical industry was rapidly changing. With the increase in martial artists, a new and better medicinal prescription is developed daily to eliminate the old ones. The reason why they did not keep up with the modern methods of the pharmaceutical industry was that her family was conservative and still used the old methods. Medicinal Hall has been selling ancient remedies for 100 years. Now that their pharmaceuticals have been left behind by other pharmaceutical industries, her Susu knows that if she does not find a new medicinal prescription, the business entrusted to her by her father will collapse. She turned around and decided that if she couldn't make a new product, she would collaborate with experienced chemical masters like Mr. Jiang. The blonde man, Ma Fei, greeted her and asked if she would not go to the neighboring city, adding that he didn't expect her to return so soon. Her Susu ignored him. The perverted guy blushed and was astounded by her beauty. As he perverted smiled, Ma Fei daydreamed of her Susu hugging him, and they would live happily ever after. Still daydreaming, her Susu told him to wake up and wanted to know if he had brought someone to the laboratory. Even if she's angry, in Ma Fei's eyes, she is still beautiful. He denied her accusation. As her Susu sighed, covering her forehead, she informed Ma Fei that he would be fired starting tomorrow. She threw the dirty coat into the trash can and started to clean the laboratory. Her Susu noticed the mutant, green-scaled lizard and learned that the one who used the laboratory used the activator to activate the mutant, green-scaled lizard. She also discovered that the scales, which are its most valuable part, had been removed. She had never heard of such preparation and assumed that the one who did this was a head stuck in the clouds who wanted to develop their own medicinal prescription. However, in the end, she realized that she is also like them, placing their hopes on something completely unrealistic. Her Susu saw a broken tube on the floor and wondered how many surprises she would face in her store today. She knelt and picked up the broken tube. As she stood and held up the broken tube, her Susu inspected the tonic and wondered what kind of combination was used to develop such a thing. Out of curiosity, she put one of her fingers inside the broken tube and tasted it. Her eyes wide open in shock. Then a few moments later, the scene shifted to Ma Fei, the perverted guy. Damn, why didn't the author show us Susu's reaction instead of poor Ma Fei? He sighed and blamed Lu Xun for what happened to him, and for the last time, he wanted to see his goddess, her Susu, again. Speaking of her Susu, she was running towards Ma Fei and called his name as she waved her hand. She confessed her love for Ma Fei. Hearing this made Ma Fei blush and cry from overwhelming happiness. He couldn't believe her Susu also loved him. As her Susu waved her hand, she ordered him to stop. Ma Fei cried as he assumed that her Susu really cared for him. He tried to run to her Susu and said that he knew she cared for him and confessed that he would not go anywhere and that his place was eternally by her side. But on the other hand, her Susu grabbed him by the collar and was determined to know who used her laboratory. As she shook Ma Fei's head, she let him know that if he could find the person who operated the laboratory earlier, she would let him back to work and double his salary. With a blank face and feeling dizzy, Ma Fei informed her that he had the contact number of the guy. Her Susu snatched the phone and released him. While browsing the phone contacts, her Susu knew the strengthening effects of the tonic she tasted earlier were at least 10 times greater than the blood-strengthening tonics currently on the market, which is cost $100,000. Besides, it actually has the effects of whitening and improving one's skin and so on. On top of that, the main components are all common ingredients. The cost price of producing is less than $5,000. She also knew that this newfound tonic was world-class. Her Susu quickly made a call when she found the contact. On the other hand, Lu Xun was intensely focused on his training. When he opened his eyes, he was amazed by the stellar body refining technique. As he expected of a rank 11 martial arts technique, its incredible ability to unearth a human body's potential is beyond comprehension. At this rate, Lu Xun might really be able to give rise to a real star within his body. The natural breathing technique is also phenomenal and has immense power. Without the complementary action of this breathing technique, the effects of the stellar body refining technique wouldn't be so good. Lu Xun's health status has significantly increased, and the muscle and blood strengthening decoction effect is superb. Lu Xun made 12 portions of the decoction earlier. With his current physique, 2 portions a day would be enough, and he wanted to find a way to make more tonic in 6 days. Lu Xun noticed his phone ringing. He picked it up and answered. On the other line, her Susu apologized for disturbing him and introduced herself as the person in charge of Xingshan Medicinal Hall. She informed Lu Xun that she saw the tonic he made and wanted to collaborate to promote the product. Lu Xun told her to meet with him after a week and ended the call. But her Susu wished to meet with him as soon as possible, so she grabbed Ma Fei by the collar and shook him. Her Susu gave him the task of hunting down Lu Xun. She would reward him with $60,000 if he found Lu Xun within 6 days. Ma Fei was very pleased with her offer and reminded her to keep her word. His smile changed into confusion as he asked his boss if something bad had happened. He informed her Susu that the one who rented the lab earlier was just a student. Her Susu became puzzled and wondered who this mysterious young guy was. Meanwhile, in Lu Xun's dream, he uppercut a big zombie, sending its head flying. A rank 4 martial artist zombie caught it and smashed it into pieces. Lu Xun wanted to know if a rank 1 martial artist like him could defeat a rank 4 martial artist zombie. He rushed forward, and the zombie greeted him with a punch. Lu Xun blocked it, but the force of the attack was twice his strength, causing him pain. The zombie tried to attack again and unleashed a mighty blow. Lu Xun quickly dodged it, swiftly moved behind the zombie, and kicked it in the head, causing the zombie to fall to the ground. Lu Xun jumped forward and released a slashing kick, defeating the zombie and obtaining its ability. After obtaining the zombie, Lu Xun learned from its memory that this zombie died on the front lines while facing a monster to protect the city. He wanted to clarify that he didn't obtain the zombie to be used as experience, but rather as a human being who had passed on the spirit of bravery. Lu Xun realized this zombie was actually a level 5 martial artist when it was alive, which explained its powerful punches. If it were not for the fact that it lacked intelligence and had lost an arm, it would have been impossible for Lu Xun to defeat this zombie. It's been almost a week since Lu Xun learned the stellar body refining art, natural breathing technique, and crystal visualization technique. Aside from that, Lu Xun's health status had increased rapidly with the aid of the muscle and blood strengthening decoction. He also fully grasped the zombie's fist techniques by absorbing its memories. Suppose he integrates the secret technique of the stellar body refining art and the natural breathing technique. In that case, Lu Xun will be able to exert power several times, or even hundreds of times more than usual. When the zombies tried to attack him, Lu Xun gathered his energy into his fist and unleashed a mighty blow called Stellar Impact. The earth crumbled, the zombies stumbled, and in a blink of an eye, the scene changed to the front of the dojo. Inside the dojo, Lu Xun asked the attendant if there was an available assessment room and if he could rent a machine. Holding her chin, she smirked and asked Lu Xun why he had returned. She wanted to know if it was because of the upcoming exam, knowing that health status isn't something that will increase in such a short time. Scratching his head, Lu Xun fake laughed and answered that he wondered if his health status might have increased slightly. In his thoughts, Lu Xun realized it was his second time this month to assess his health status, knowing that most people only assess their vitality twice a year. Even the schools that are most concerned about their students' grades would only perform monthly assessments. The attendant told him room 2006 was still available and wished him luck. Inside the assessment room, Lu Xun told himself that if it weren't for his abilities improving rapidly, he wouldn't bother coming here so often. He first assessed his vitality, showing a 15.632 result, far surpassing the standards of a rank 2 martial artist. Thinking about it, it made sense. The supreme martial arts techniques and the most advanced tonics are both from 10,000 years in the future. It would be strange if he didn't get such a crazy result. He then pulled up his sleeve to prepare for a combat assessment. He unleashed a powerful blow, and in a few seconds, he got a result of 3,137 combat power. He realized that because of the fist technique, he got a high result that was more than twice the standard requirement. He then got the idea that if the skill he uses can affect his combat index, his ultimate combat power should be much higher than this. Lu Xun then stood in a combat position for a second try. Using a stellar impact of his own, his eyes glowed. A blue aura emerged from his body. A whirlwind gathered in his fist, and in a blink of an eye, the scene changed. From a distance, the attendant saw him and asked if he was already done, adding that he seemed pleased. Lu Xun replied that he was indeed pretty delighted and said goodbye. The attendant happily wished him good luck in his exam. Closing her eyes, she thought of Lu Xun. Even though he was acting cool, he was pretty good-looking when he smiled. Her fantasy was interrupted when a boy asked her who she was talking to. This guy was the little brother of the girl with orange hair and a red gym bag on her left shoulder. Her name was Aishuang, and she was the daughter of the master of Hongchuan Martial Arts Academy. She asked the attendant if the guy who came earlier came for an assessment. Still blushing, the attendant clarified that she must have seen it wrong, adding that the guy earlier was just a typical high school student and coincidentally handsome. The red-haired guy said, "What's the point of being handsome if you don't make money? In our society, only prowess in martial arts really counts." He added that based on the man's clothing earlier, it looked like he came from an ordinary family. Even if he assessed many times, there was no point and nothing would change. Looking at her little brother, she knew the situation in society. The poor dwelled in academics, while martial arts were for the rich. The resources needed for cultivating martial arts are a large part of the reason for the saying. Her little brother had been taking all sorts of tonics since he was young, and his vitality was much more than others even before he had begun cultivation. Knowing that her little brother practiced all sorts of martial arts techniques, the gap between him and his peers was ever increasing, and he became arrogant. She hit him in the head and reminded him not to compare himself to others, especially those from ordinary households. A lump came out of his head, and Shuang told him that since he had access to good resources, he had more reason to work harder and not to be proud of himself because of his tiny achievements. He grabbed his sister's arm and asked for a favor. He wanted to see the assessment result of the guy earlier, and Shuang asked him why. The red-haired guy answered that the guy earlier looked a few years older than him, and he wanted to compare and see if his hard work had improved. Otherwise, he would feel uneasy. And Shuang sighed and granted her younger brother's request. She reminded him not to be complacent because the guy earlier was ordinary. The red-haired guy happily agreed with her. The attendant showed the records and clarified that the guy earlier was the only one who came to do an assessment today. As she looked into the results, she was sure that the guy earlier was indeed a student. But when the attendant pulled up the result, Shuang's eyes and mouth widened in shock, and sweat emerged from her face. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.